guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about AWS Cloud Practitioner Certification. If you like my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and push that like button on my video. So let's start. I guess you've noticed that for the last 3 weeks I haven't posted anything, and the reason for that was that I was preparing for AWS Cloud Practitioner exam, and I successfully passed the exam last Monday. And in this video, I'd like to talk with you about the exam, the resources I used, and the preparation types that I opted for to pass this AWS exam. To start with, I've passed the Cloud Practitioner exam, which is the foundational level exam of all AWS exams. And after that, you can continue passing either associate, professional, or subject level exams for AWS, depending on the path that you're taking in IT, in tech, and development or coding paths. I started with AWS, and I suppose I will go on for a Solutions Architect Associate certification, so I'm sure it's not the last certification that I'm taking with AWS. I've collected 836 points on a scale of 1000 for the exam. I had 65 questions, multiple choice questions, or the questions where I had to choose not only one right answer but two or more. I had around 1 to 2 questions with 3 correct answers, and much more questions with 2 correct answers. And the time was perfectly enough to answer all of the questions. I was able to answer all of the questions in 60 minutes and spend another 30 minutes to go through the questions and review my answers, which is very, very important, I suppose, because at some points you may forget to choose 2 correct answers for the question where you have to choose 2 and you only choose 1 correct answer, and the system doesn't check if you have checked for the right number of correct answers. So it's always a good idea to go through these questions and reiterate through your responses. Another question that I come across very often in tech AWS certification groups, in Facebook and in other places as well, is what type of background did you have before passing the exam? And I myself, I don't have any cloud experience. I only heard about cloud, but I have not working with cloud directly, although I'm an IT engineer, but I just started my job 3 months ago, and I'm just about getting to know the cloud better. So I can't say that I had the cloud experience before passing the exam. But what I did have is CompTIA trifecta. I passed CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus this year, and of course it added up to my IT knowledge. But still, if you don't have CompTIA exams as a background, it doesn't mean that you can't pass the AWS exam, because all you have to do is just Google more for the definitions and terms for subnet, for router, how it works. I'm sure there are plenty of videos on YouTube or on Udemy where you can find a lot of courses to cover IT basics. So the experience that you have previously, let it be in IT or in any other field, is not the guarantee for your pass of AWS exam. I'm sure that you can pass the exam even if you have no IT experience or no previous IT certifications at all. Next, very shortly about the price of the exam. I paid $100 for the exam, and I currently live and reside in the UK. But I myself am from Azerbaijan, and I'm an Azerbaijani citizen. So whenever I would put my UK address in my certification account on AWS, I would get a price of not $100 but $120 because I have to pay VAT if I am from the UK. So the life hacks that I used is I changed my address to my Azerbaijani previous address, and that way I didn't have to pay more for the exam and pay VAT, and just was okay with paying $100 for the exam. Next very frequently asked question is the resources that I used for AWS exam. Well, I can't say that I used all of the resources available, but those that I used were quite enough to pass the exam. First of all, I'd like to give kudos and mention Stefan Marek's Udemy course because it was very good and very informative, and this course is practically almost enough to pass the exam. The reason why his course is good is that at the end of the course he has the section with additional services, additional functions of AWS that he always renews. And whenever something new is added to the objectives, he always covers it in his course. That's why to get the up-to-date information and up-to-date study resources, I would advise you to go for his Udemy course. Next thing that I used to prepare for the exam is this book. And I do not recommend you to use this book. Not to say something bad about it, I really appreciate the work that authors put to write this book. But the problem with it is that this book is outdated. If you download the AWS objectives, you can see the version number on these objectives at the bottom. So the objectives are always renewed depending on the new AWS services or any changes in the services that AWS provides. For example, the total cost of ownership function of AWS is deprecated, but here you can see a whole section on this function, whereas currently it's deprecated and we should not focus on that function anymore. So for that reason, I really do not recommend you to go for book materials and to rather opt for online courses or lean on the AWS website to be able to answer all of your questions and prepare for the exam. Next thing that I used is again Stefan Marek's practice exams. It's a separate course on Udemy, and there are 6 exams with 65 questions in each exam. And I used that course, I bought it, and I did all of the practice exam questions. On 3 of the practice exams I failed, I collected 65%, and on another 3 I collected from 75 to 80% and passed. So that's how the statistics of my practice exams was. Next thing that I used is AWS website. This is a very important thing for you to Google all of the functions, all of the things outlined in I always say CompTIA, I'm sorry, in AWS objectives, and cover them as well. It was very often when I came across on the exam the exact definitions taken from the AWS website. And whenever you take the objectives and go through each function and definition of it, there is no need to go to do a deep dive into each of the function, but just read the definition to understand what it is exactly. And it helped me a lot because I knew the definitions, and I knew, for example, that this function does this and this, only from the definition, and that was enough. So don't underestimate the power of AWS website, and go for it. Read through it and read through the definitions of the functions. Next thing is, of course, the objectives. Before going to the exam, download the objectives and go through them, and make sure that you are aware about all the functions and all the services outlined in the appendix section of the objectives. This section is more important than the main objective sections of these AWS objectives. And yeah, oddly enough. And next, of course, go through the objectives and to be aware of what you're expected to answer or what you're expected to know on the exam. Pros and cons of passing this exam. Well, this exam is way easier than the CompTIA exams that I've taken. And if you follow my channel, you know that I failed my first CompTIA exam. And on all other CompTIA exams, I didn't know if I will pass or not until I pressed that finish test button on the exam. And on AWS exams, the situation and the atmosphere was easier because the questions themselves were not as hard as on CompTIA's exams, and there were less ambiguity. For example, if on CompTIA exams I would not answer 20 to 25% of questions on my first go, and then on the remaining time would go back to these questions and answer to them. On AWS exams there were just 4 to 5 questions that I was not sure about, and I answered them at the end. So if we compare, of course, AWS Cloud Practitioner exam is easier than CompTIA exams. And what is harder about CompTIA exams is that you don't have a single database or a single source of information. On CompTIA, you have to guess that, okay, if we have this protocol, it means that we will have to answer the questions about these versions of this protocol or not. You always end up guessing. But with AWS, there is an AWS website where you can just Google all of their services and get that information. There is no need to guess or no need to search for different sources of information if there is the main source of information, which is the AWS website. What I get with it is that I want to advance in my career, and the cloud is a very important outsourcing area for servers and infrastructure, software and coding. So it's very important if you want to progress in your career in tech to have an understanding of the cloud. Even if you're not going to work in the cloud industry directly, the understanding of it is very important if you want to progress and develop yourself as an IT professional. What I get with AWS exam also is a 50% voucher for my next exam. Then I'm not sure if we get the paperback certificates as in CompTIA, because I haven't come across anything about it on the email that congratulated me, but of course I shared it on my LinkedIn. Next thing that I would advise you is that do not underestimate the hands up. Whether you're going for a book or you're going for an online course, all of them contain some hands-on, with creating an instance, with doing some operations in the cloud. And remember that when you create a new account in AWS, you have around 1 month free of service running, which is 750 hours. So you can do most of the hands-on for free on AWS, around 70% of them. And then just delete your account so that you're sure you will not be charged for anything or you will not accidentally leave one of your servers running. I did just that. I prepared for the exam, I passed it, and then I deleted my account just to make sure that no services are running and I will not be charged for anything in the long run. It took me 2 months to prepare for the exam, but I worked full-time and I'm also enrolled in a part-time degree. So you can imagine that I did not contribute all of my free time to AWS, and only in the last 2 weeks I started. My preparation was around 1 to 1.5 hours time per day, but before that I was allocating around half an hour every day for a preparation. So if you do a harder preparation and spend more time, I think you're good to go in a time frame way shorter than mine. Well, that was it that I was going to tell you about AWS. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Also leave your thoughts about how you feel about going for an AWS, and if you passed CompTIA exams, leave your comments about your further thoughts about which certification to get, as I think that when you start getting the certifications, there is a part of us that wouldn't let go, and we just continue to go for various certifications. I don't know if it happens only with me or it's a normal thing for everyone. So I'm waiting for your reviews and your thoughts in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on Instagram, because I would love to see you there, and push that like button for my video. And have a nice day. Bye bye.